de la Escuela Oficial de Idiomas de Gijón.
Hello and welcome to our podcast. For this episode, we will be interviewing John White. John Q. White is an Irish-Canadian physicist, writer, and educator. He has been actively promoting numeracy and critical thinking throughout a 40-year career in industry and academia. White is the editor of the energy news service website E21NS and a former lecturer in the School of Physics at University College Dublin and the Department of Education at University of Oviedo, where he taught courses in atomic physics, optics, and science education. Love brought him to Gijón, and today we're very lucky to have him with us. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much for having me. Okay, first question.
Asturias' natural landscapes and resources offer great potential for renewable energy. Which type do you believe is currently the most dominant in the region? Thanks.
Well, it's a very good question. Let's start with numbers. Asturias has about 4 gigawatts of power, okay? 50% of that right now is coal. You've all probably seen Aboño and Soto Ribera. 25% is natural gas, 10% is wind, and 10% is hydroelectric, for example, in Salameda Grandes. Wind is catching on very quickly. Okay, there's a company actually in Avilés called Windar, which can build right now 20 megawatt wind turbines. So think about that for a second. 200 of those wind turbines could power all of Asturias. So I'm pro-wind. There's also solar panels coming up. Okay, we're not the sunniest part of Spain, but it's still sunny, and it's sunnier than Germany, okay? And Germany is one of the world leaders in photovoltaic solar panels. So there's no reason why we can't compete with that, because last time I checked, Asturias is further south than Germany. There's a couple of companies building solar panels in Asturias. One's called Exiom. There's another company called Sol Reina, which is just outside of Gijón, which just came up with a fascinating new invention for which they won an award for the best patent, protected patent. And it's a solar canopy for your window, and so everybody here can shade the solar the window from the sun when they want to, and if they lift it up, it absorbs the sun and it gives you power. So solar and wind are great examples of two areas where you can get power in Asturias. And I hope soon that we have an energy efficient and green province here in Asturias.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
I have two questions for you. Nuclear energy is not renewable, but in terms of climate change, do you consider nuclear energy a green or clean energy? And what do you think about all the nuclear plants that have been shut down?
Yeah, good question. I'm sorry you're talking to the wrong guy. I'm an anti-nuclear person. So I've been against nuclear most of my life, and that doesn't mean I didn't start in the nuclear industry, but I think the standard arguments still work. It's full of waste. Okay, they call it nuclear eternity. You're never going to get rid of it. Where are you going to put all this waste? Okay, all these power plants around the world right now in the United States, nuclear power is 20%, but they can't agree on where to put the waste. These are standard arguments. Accidents, we all know about Chernobyl and Fukushima. Just be happy you don't live near a nuclear reactor. They can also convert it to weapons. It's expensive. The levelized cost of energy for nuclear power is at the moment $167 per megawatt hour. It's $38 per megawatt hour for solar. So it's expensive. It costs $1 billion per gigawatt just to make. Okay, it's impossible to be affordable, and it's also something that it takes 20 years now to build a reactor. So it's not going to happen anytime soon. There are some rumblings in the United States about what's called a small modular reactor, a small size reactor, which they're spending a lot of money on it. So again, it's also a grid-tied energy, so it's a source that you have to rely on. Well, you have to rely on wind power, generally speaking, but photovoltaic, no, if it's on your roof. So, sorry, I'm anti-nuclear. I get the arguments. So, in answer to your second question, is it a good thing that they're closing all these reactors? Yes, it's a good thing. I praise Angela Merkel for closing all the reactors in Germany, and I'm happy I don't live near one.
And now, let's give way to our sponsor.
It all starts in the dark. Until the light arrives. Meet Uberlights, the solar lanterns that don't just light your way. They change the way we think about energy. No outlets, no disposable batteries. Just the power of the sun charging all day to bring you hours of warm light at night. Perfect for your patio, your campsite, or that cozy corner of your home. But Uberlight isn't just a lantern, it's a statement. Simplicity can be brilliant. Sustainability can be beautiful.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So the next question says, as cities strive to lower their carbon emissions, the concept of operating solely on green energy is becoming increasingly feasible, thanks to advancements in renewable technologies and to falling costs. So, do you think it's possible to create cities that rely completely on green energy?
Very good question. Yeah, why not? As we just said in the previous question, and I'm going to give you an example. There's an island in the Canaries called El Hierro, okay? And it has 5 wind turbines of 11 megawatts for 10,000 people. And that supplies, right now, half of its energy needs, almost all of its electrical needs if it wants to. So instead of shipping in diesel energy on a boat from afar, you can power your island, in this case, which an energy city, an energy island, entirely with green energy, wind power. And El Hierro or the Canaries are very windy, so if you have excess energy, when you have too much, they use a system called pump storage hydro, and it pumps water up when there's too much, and when the wind is not blowing, which it usually is in the Canaries, it comes down. Other places, there's a city in the United Arab Emirates, which Masdar City, which is hopefully trying to be 100% renewable. Even places today, Los Angeles, powered itself solely by solar panels for an hour one weekend. Now, you might not say an hour is very much, but it is, and you can just scale that up and continue. And so they're ramping up the power. Portugal was wind-powered for 3 days because of its grid. So yes, there's no reason why cities cannot become 100% renewable. It's taking time. It's a transition. It's a change. But the answer to your question is an unqualified yes.
Thank you.
So next question. I've read in an article that green hydrogen is fundamental to achieve the international objectives of energy decarbonization and the fight against climate change. What is your opinion on green hydrogen? Could it be a feasible option in the midterm, or is it merely a bubble?
It's a very good question. A very pertinent question here in Asturias and in Spain and in Europe, because they are intending to plan the green hydrogen project, which will have a storage facility in Gijón. And so, green hydrogen, the purpose for it is you start with water and you use electrolysis either by the sun or by the wind, so it's green. You don't use methane, which is the method they use now to create hydrogen. So you separate water into hydrogen and into oxygen. And then you later recombine the hydrogen and oxygen to make water giving off energy. All right. You can also burn the hydrogen if you want, but it's not as clean. So hydrogen is not a source, okay? That's one of the problems. Hydrogen's a storage material. And one of the reasons it's being sold is because the problem with solar and wind, clearly when the sun is not shining, you get no solar. And when the wind is not blowing, you get no wind. Now you can share the load around and make bigger farms and use grid technology to make wind and solar viable, but the inherent intermittency requires a storage material. Right now they have batteries, chemical batteries, lithium-ion batteries, but hydrogen is being sold as one of the possible storage materials. Personally, I think it's very expensive, it's very new, it's very hard to do. The European Union is spending a lot of money, and that's fine, and some of it's coming to Gijón, and you can read the newspaper every day and find out that the High Deal project is raring to go. It just needs money. And but a better way to use hydrogen is to take carbon out of high-temperature manufacturing. So here we have ArcelorMittal, we have Abonio, or we have Masevo, and we have Fertiberia. So they're steel, cement, and fertilizer. And they require high temperatures to manufacture, okay? So if you can use something other than coal, which creates carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas, very dirty. Anyone who lives in La Calzada knows, okay? Or even in Gijón. If you can replace that with green hydrogen, it has to be green hydrogen. There's no point in using dirty hydrogen created from methane. And you use the hydrogen that you create by the electrolyzers from solar or from wind. So watch this page. It's a very important subject, okay? And Gijón and Spain are part of the trunk line to feed hydrogen to Europe. So fingers crossed, we could decarbonize all of Asturias and eventually become a green city. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for talking to us today on our very first podcast. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much.